Hi, my name is Irene Ratliff. I wanted to have a conversation today in regards to domestic abuse and sexual assault. The reason why I'm, reaching out on my channel is because I need an update. I need to say something. I've been doing something out here and I've been complaining. And I wanted to say that my complaint about sexual assault and domestic abuse is by way of the government. Okay. I've been complaining and talking about a few things about what my experience has been. And I tell you the God honest truth, I'm just tired of it. And it's like, well, here it is to talk about being tired of it and to talk about, here it is, what do you think it is? And I went to resources that you think will be helpful. And, it's not medication, okay? Matter of fact, I was thinking about them talking about medication and then looking at what the medication does. It's like it doesn't alleviate the problem, okay? You could medicate someone and then yet the problem exists. And then that right there in itself, that's the problem. And so, anyway, I was trying to explain to the doctor that I'm feeling a lot of heat on my vagina, that my clitoris is feel like it's being molested. And so, anyway, I went to the doctor just recently, and she did what she had to do, and she was like, "Well, we're gonna do some cultures and we're gonna do this." So anyway, the cultures didn't come back how I wanted it to come back, like it was nothing wrong with it. But um, it was something wrong, and I know whatever it was talking about is false, right? Not by here it is my sexual act. Let's just put it like that. And I was just like, well, listen, I'm telling you for a long time, like right now, as I'm chatting with you, I feel that. I shouldn't be feeling that. That's no venereal disease. Let's put it like that. Okay. And for that thing to molest me. And I'm like, wow, to think of age, right? And then, I don't want to put no age on it because we have our youth. We have kids, man, who is man's crying and just for real whimpering or whatever that is because they're being touched or something, or a woman being, or a man. So it don't even matter the age or the sex. You understand what I'm saying? But to be have something that want to be like it's invisible or it's something that is trying to make woman. There was already the complaint about whatever that is. It was already there. So then why does that thing want me to be upset? So anyway, as I'm talking about, here it is, the clitoris. I know that I had conversations about my foot and what would look like a regular callus, right? Um, right where that thing is, if you're doing somebody who studies podiatry, there's a nerve right there. But that heating on that leg, the other day, man, it felt like I had a steel Charlie horse. Okay, and that right there it becomes a concern to look at how they're able to mess with the clitoris and then to try to put charge on it's like, man, hold up. I mean, you could just sitting there and you feel something now filling up on you. I'm like, honey, we have the wrong one that want to be like, it's our spirit world. There's no, my thought, I'm going to let you know right now. We don't need, when that person decided that they wanted to be like Cuckoo Cocoa Puffs and, separate a union between man, woman, and children, at that point, honey, I had no love for that motherfucker. I ain't gonna lie to you on that. I was just like, well, here it is. Well, why would they do that? And then yet years later, molest me and bother me. Honey, there's a lot, it ain't money. There's a lot of people who got bread, a lot of people who are affluent, a lot of people who are talkers and speakers, all kinds of stuff. I'm sorry, whatever that experience was not in relation to here, just talking about monetary gain. It doesn't make any sense. People make, I said, motherfuckers, people are making money doing all kinds of stuff now. Okay? Why are you, I mean, no, it's something else. It's something else. It's something else. So we know that it's a group of people, okay? Because I'm like, on that 24, for something to be like they're watching us like that, they want to be like, here it is, we're spying or we're enemy of the state or this, that. We got problems. And we have sexual problems. The reason why it's a sexual problem, because we're going to go right back to that reference about what those complaints were to talk about the vagina. And I was like, well, if we could sit here and talk about an entrance, and this, it's just like, well, hold on, the ovum, the semen. It's like, hold on, man. We're looking at, man, a long time being molested. You know, generally, after you have foreplay and stuff like that, and you do your sexual act, that's it. Okay, here it is. You go back to, now here it is, hours and hours of being molested that way. Uh-uh. No, no, no. And I was like, well, to look at something, you know, there's some material artwork and some historical something that want to talk about a person that may have been scrutinized or something, and they wanted to have them, you know, be at conversation about a complaining or something. And I'm like, well, you know, to have that thing to be like it want to head us, and then here it is, we're looking at the complaint. That's a problem too. That means that it was something opposite than what we were, what would have been useful if there was an event of that required the action of the people to be on the front line to save themselves or to protect ourselves, okay, from enemy forces. But then when those enemy forces are within, then we have a problem, meaning that the United States government, Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, whoever has that type of access or have manipulated the system that we pay for to try to protect ourselves, then that means that we have a domestic problem. Because the things that I'm talking about, when I started talking about domestic abuse, for the things that I was experiencing, I was just like, well, no, I don't think that we should be experiencing those type of things like that. The way that it tried to make it seem as if we were looking at family, but then they were the ones who was doing the abuse. We have a lot of family cases. But if we were thinking about what we're listening to, or here it is, the actions or the behaviors of someone, then it is not of their own. I mean, we have a lot of different stories, a lot of different stories and cases, right? That's related to domestic abuse. But me being by myself, my not having here it is, my immediate family close, and then for me to be in this type situation where I'm all by myself and I'm crying like I could be I'm sitting here and and then I just start to feel that thing molesting my vagina. I'm sorry, that don't have anything to do with no damn venereal disease. However, in regards to science, if that amount of heat causes a venereal disease, then that means that we have a lot of people who have been under heat or fire on their vaginas like that, or their penis or their genitals. Okay, let's just say genitals. And I'm like, well, no, somewhere in there, I even contacted this office. This office, I think, was the Office of Victim Protection by way of domestic abuse and sexual assault. And I'm saying, man, these people, they're using these devices on us like that. What is it that you can do to help us? And so they talked about it being too advanced, or that the story, oh, we're here, well, find some other people who like you. And I was like, well, you know what? There may be some people who are silent, considering we have a whole lot of lights, and then we're knocking on the front line on a lot of doors, and then yet here it is, no reply. Like these people, I go by many names. You know, they want to be like they're untouchable, or they're an illuminated light or something. It's coming from somewhere, because if we were looking at, here it is, satellites or the usage of lasers and stuff like that, which we know exists, laser surgeries and all that exists, right? It's coming from somebody other than, here it is, man on ground. Let's put it like that. Man on land. It's coming from someplace else. Not somebody who's trying, oh, look, we did this to see how you're going to do this. Say, no, 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 no. Man, man, I'm a victim of domestic abuse. When we look at, here it is, all the different words: physical abuse, emotional, mental, physical, sexual, financial. This is like, wow. And yet we look at ourselves, right? And we talk about the stigmatic history of human rights. And it's just not, oh, inappropriate. Oh, it's inappropriate. And it sounds like, well, when they say inappropriate, in has value. In has value. And us looking at that in, if we were looking at mathematics, then it means to me that it's negative. That what I know I'm experiencing is not okay, it's negative. Okay, it's negative. So anyway, um, they have these classes. I want to commit to these classes, but I also want to know how that commitment is going to help, right? Us get to, one moment, please. One moment. Get to some of the things that are of concern, right? Such as addressing chick. Okay, that's Constitution, human rights, independence, civil rights, right? Constitution, human rights, independence, civil rights. Because the thing is that for someone to say, oh, okay, they're not infringing on our constitutional rights, it's false. Okay, because our the first 10 amendments apply to us. If we were looking at our human rights, of course, to be going back and forth about colorism or even just man being in his space, that right there too goes in line with constitutional rights. The other thing is to look at independence. I'm saying I don't like it. I don't think that I spend that much time sexually sexing how they. I'm sorry, there's more people who out there doing the who bang bang than yet here it is they want to talk about yesterday. I said I'm a married woman. What the hell? No, 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 no. Now, if we was talking about the cream, I was like, well, that amount of heat, what it did is talk about bed sores and that heat. I'm sitting there and me feeling that heat and to look at the seat. I had explained to one of the departments. I said it felt. Well, I said jab, but a force like it was a force like like something. Man, if in the heat of the moment, something that spreads open your legs and then it's just trying to jab in you. And I mean, at that point, it's negative, right? It's not really a good feeling. I mean, it's not, here it is in no more aha moments. It was something else, right? And then to have that thing simmering and doing, because I know at one time I was like, dang, um, why am I feeling that on my pubic area? And it was almost a concern to talk about I was just kind of like running around, trying to figure it out. And I was like, okay, well maybe it's the urinary. If you start thinking about your urinary, right? You don't want nobody to be interfering with your I mean, people talk about urinary tract infections and stuff like that. But it wasn't that. That's not what the doctor told me. You understand what I'm saying? I'm like, honey, I haven't had any sex. Oh, we heard this. We don't know when. I said, baby girl, I ain't gonna lie to you, honey. We done did a whole lot of tests. I'm letting you know that my coochie is on fire. And we ain't talking about coochie chocolate. You heard me? So anyway, let me read this to you. This, this is coming up. Let me see if I could downsize it. This is coming up and I want to take these classes. I get a certificate, they said, at the end of it. But what we will learn is the history of the movement regarding domestic abuse, domestic violence. Now, as I stated before, how my experience and how I'm looking at that relation to the abuse that people have suffered, right? Whether we're talking about prisons of war or we're looking at human rights, where they want to be like, okay, talk about hue and stuff like that, and how looking at a color of a person's skin or their appearance or whatever had made these people behave the way that they were behaving, right? So we're looking at even looking at employment, we're looking at a type of harassment and a type of employment law. Okay, so there's some kind of abuse of where I'm conversing or what I'm trying to explain, that the government and how they try to manipulate something to in a domestic abuse, domestic violence, something. Okay, no different than how we may say police brutality, though that's a little different. I'm realizing that in my complaint that it was various ways that these people have been able to manipulate. Here it is, the system, and then we have. I mean, I'm like, hey, what is the problem? If I'm trying to help myself, I'm trying to help my people. Then here it is. Why are these people trying to have me experiencing all this abuse? And I got an abuse problem. You understand? So anyway, we're gonna be doing the history of the. Give me a minute now. I need to work on that. But anyway, it says that here it is. There's a be an overview of the training. So there's some information and stuff that I would need to review. But it was going to talk about the overview and introduction of the principles of domestic violence. I used this is what I'm trying to explain. I was going to the domestic violence group. I mean, I don't know if we were looking at praising. I don't know if it was outcome or overcoming. Pray. I have no idea. And I was just like, well, how are these people helping people who are domestic violence victims? Okay. I mean, I was because okay. I'm not saying that there is not, but if we were all making a story out of something, I mean, a lot of people they getting bored, and it's just not peer support. And then yet we're looking at individual circumstances, whether we're looking at here it is the mate or your children, your parent. I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on to look at domestic violence. Okay, which it goes into family law and the Department of Family and Children Services, domestic violence. So and that's how I was explaining to you how that was coming off, um, how it was coming around. We looked at here it is the men, we looked at the children, we looked at the women, and I was just like, well, what about um your mama, your daddy? And I was like, well, hold up. Okay, how about how you think you want to be treated? Now I'm like, well, I don't know about neither one of them. I was like, I don't think I want my daddy would do that. And then your daddy does it. We got to change. Here it is what we think our daddy will and will not do, including your mama, including your siblings or your children, right? So it was like, well, what you think it shouldn't be, or what you think it, how you want to be treated. Okay, a little interception. I feel that. I feel that heat on my vagina. It's like it's twirling. I shouldn't be feeling that, babe. I just had to do that interception just to let you know why I'm on this horn right now, okay? This right here, I don't know if it's gonna help. When I contacted those people at that office, they told me that here it is, they thought it was too big, or that it wasn't relevant to here it is the discussion. Now, looking at domestic violence, I just explained to you where that's family law. Department of Family and Children Services, that's the county, right? And so if we have cybersecurity and this, that, and the other, so then why they feel like they can't help me? With the FBI and them, they got all that information. Honey, science in itself should be able to look and see, here it is what the hell I'm talking about. If it's being used, We don't need, here it is, the DOJ and the DOD or FBI and all them trying to advance. And that's what the people have allowed the people to advance this type of technology on us without even providing support for the family. And then yeah, here this is what? I said, honey, I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't even know what set that is or what culture, but I know we don't like it. Now here it is. Who's the we part? Well, we're gonna stand our ground. Huh. Person, place, and thing. Now, huh. Street Meat Company, Ladette Ivory Rattler, and that thing is for real. Business building develop chick. What else? We just say all of us. Shit. If it ain't nothing else, know that part. Okay, fact that we the domestic violence in ethnic communities. Now, I already explained to you why some areas that look like here there ain't nothing going on. But then yet you come to hear this, some of our communities, they wouldn't be like, okay, we look like we are the largest part of the homeless communities. That we're homeless. I rebuke you. We don't have employment. And so I some of this stuff, as I had mentioned, to look at what was going on yesteryears and to look at ourselves today, I don't want us to be lackadaisical as if nothing is happening. Okay, because there's some things happening. I'm not just, I mean, and I just kind of think about it every now and again, and I'm like, why in the world, considering that we can look at it, let's just say an antidote, right? That something wants to bother or molest the help, or it wouldn't be like it is. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what church that is, what synagogue, what temple. I mean, I don't give a flying flip. I was not in agreement with that thing making all that damn noise in my head like that. I ain't gonna lie to you on that. And that's for real. I don't like it. And matter of fact, it went to a little moment talking about, Cleo and all that. And I was like, whatever psychic that is, it changed my views about a lot of different stuff. Just listen to that thing manipulate us that way. And then that manipulation to see that inside the family union. Um, so anyway, it says overview and introduction to the experience of the domestic violence in ethnic communities to address how marginalized communities or oppressed groups experience domestic. I'm telling you one of them right now. Man, I was just okay. I'm gonna go and make another comment on something else, but explain myths about domestic violence and our response to them. Trauma informed care, introduction to trauma informed care and the impact for domestic and the impact of domestic violence. Overview and introduction to the experience of domestic violence in the LGBTQ community. We have introduction to principles of racial bias and cultural humility, cultural competence and humility, racism, violence, and oppression. You see what I'm saying? You don't think they hear this? What the hell I'm saying? I just want to know how we able to use this to talk. I'm complaining to the niggas down right now. See, I gotta go change this because it's a racial slur. I said that's a nation, and I didn't say that. Oh my gosh, should I post this? I have to start all over. Oh my gosh, should I edit this? I don't even know how to edit this stuff. But anyway, let me go ahead. Excuse me. There's a nation of people, okay? And I'm one of them now today. Oh, good God Almighty. Oh, I know I've been white all my life, but then yet here it is. Mm-mm. Okay. Introduction to Principles of Racial Bias. Oh, I already said that. History of racism, oppression in API community and impact experience of domestic violence. Didn't I just explain to you what we just come up out of? Talk about segregation, separation, mass incarceration, and stuff like that. And then what that person was over, they wanted all these people to see how they hidden that pianta. And I was just like, man, I'm like, oh man, right now you can see my arms, you know, Man, I'm like, for real, my arms just for me just trying to protect my stomach and do this. Oh man. And the reason I was like the drying of my face, I'm like that heat. And yet you see it on my arms right here where there's spots where you can see where those lasers, and it's tender in some places, and my hands is trying to hold cover myself like that when I, man, what? Behaviorism. Understanding the approach, role, and responsibilities of law enforcement and district attorney working with domestic violence survivors. I'm letting them know that the behaviorism is, if we're listening to anything that man, I'm telling you that this radio is on. And it led me to think, it's like, damn, you don't want something being done to you. That here it is, that thought about, hey, the reason why a person may get locked up, okay, not just talking about the abuse or retaliation, but here it is, I'm just tired of that and that, you know what I mean? And so people, they act on that. And then that right there led, a matter of fact, I didn't even see on here about here it is suicide, but I'll look because as I said before, if somebody is going through something, they may be thinking about, that person and maybe themselves. But if that radio is on, huh? That radio is on, then why is the radio on? We at peace. What's the problem? And I've been complaining about that radio being on a long time. And I'm like, well, honey, I don't think that I'm the messenger for that, okay? So that's the reason why I'm not on this horn like that all the time, okay? It doesn't mean that here it is, everything is okay. But even for me to even say something like that, everything should be okay. But it's just that long to look at the domestic abuse, to talk about financial security, financial, and your employment and everything. But if we were again to reiterate them going back and forth to say the involvement, somewhere near, if we know that law enforcement, which we had an argument, even looking at detention centers, right, about people being in these detention centers, right, thinking that they're safe, and these officers trying to beat them down. Now here it is. Some of these police officers, it's like, honey, the community at large, the RBG community, have been at large and trying to communicate, hey, no, stop the violence from police, or even try to have compassion training, community training, all kinds of stuff. And so I don't know, here it is, how they may view stuff. Some of these people, they got collegiate degrees in psychology and social work, different stuff like that. And so why do you suppose, and I mean, don't get me misunderstood, I think that in the last 5 or 6 years, it's been a very big effort for the community at large to be at peace and to try to get along and try to have an understanding. We understand about authority, but then we will let you know we understand about authority too. You understand what I'm saying? These people have been trying to push our buttons and stuff like that. And I'm like, honey, we been gay, honey. It's like, honey, we've been trying to be cool beings, and here it is, this misunderstanding, and these people advancing, here it is, against our constitutional rights. And just like I said, I mean, I'm like, well, if we're looking at law enforcement, the question would be, and this is the thing, this is not really a question and answer, something I'm just going to be, learning to get the little certificate. But if I'm telling you that here it is, that if we're looking at law enforcement, we need to know who has this type of operation to do the surveillances on the cameras and man, I had people coming to, it's like, well, hold on now, who did that? Who approved that? I didn't authorize that. Even the district attorney, cybersecurity or something like that. I mean, we don't agree with that. They were moving. Matter of fact, I was saying that when we had some civil right or civil movements against police brutality, that how some of these things were associating itself to one thing or the other, like the taser guns, people getting electrified or something, right? The electric chair, the baton. I was like, man, looking at police reform, there was a whole bunch of stuff that we need to look at under that. So I don't know, man. Here it is, Brianna. I know that a lot of people just think that that's on the surface or something, but mm-mm. And that person he would mm. Overview and introduction to immigrant domestic violence survivors, legal rights and resources. Immigrant domestic violence, man. And you get some people, things that you just don't know. People traveling, you know, people traveling, and we have that story about the girl traveling and her friends, and man, family members and stuff like that, and just trying to get away. I was staying with someone, and it was a domestic type thing, and I needed a place to stay. She needed a place to stay, and I wasn't too sure. No, I didn't say anything at all to say escape with me. We would have been homeless, okay? And if I was to say escape and then they stay, then the trust. But to have someone beat up on someone and be in that company like that, no different than how they were trying to explain how the government is removing children from homes. I mean, it's like it's a big human trafficking business within the government. Okay, so overview introduction to social services for domestic violence survivors. Man, some of us were survivors. I know they say it, and but to go back and forth and read this thing as if we're, the things that I'm trying to communicate or convey, to be like, okay, well, we're excluded from that because we didn't have a, let's say a bean or something, is false. Understanding history. Okay, where were we? All right. To gain an insight on awareness and understanding the history of racism and oppression. Now didn't you just hear what I just said about one thing? I'm talking about here it is our history, and then yet they want to talk about domestic violence as if we're just talking about individuals. And then if I'm saying if they're hearing these people, their behaviors, we've allowed these people that have said to advance. Here it is, technology, and to oppress us in such a way that the people didn't say anything, but they wanted to make it seem like it was some racial something. And I was just like, well, honey, we black. We black. And I was trying to say, family, come on now. And I was like, well, hold on. I was like, but we going to go there. If you don't want to have your baby with no nappy hair, you don't want to say it's an African, whatever you want. We with you. Understanding the history of racism and oppression in API community and its impact. Now, this is the thing. I don't even know what API means in this right now. But man, if we were sitting there going back and forth about colorism, then we already know that whatever I'm talking about right now, that is just true. I'm complaining. They want these people to look at here it is, how what they were doing among a whole bunch of white looking people. And then, honey, don't even get me started on some black people because they'd be like, well, you and your own people. Uh huh. I mean, I was just like, well, honey, we ain't calling all of them like that either. But for real though, to explore the historical context of discrimination and oppression and API community impact intersections of discrimination and oppression of sexual violence. Now, didn't I just say that here it is, my coochie on fire, and I ain't talking about coochie chagalia? I mean, I'm being molested. And then they would be, oh, the nerve, the nerve. Your clitorius or your genitals have a lot of a lot of nerves. You know, it doesn't have to wait to get erected or anything. It has a lot of nerve endings. That's what it says. Then, of course, you know, the largest nervous system is your brain. Oh, but honey, we ain't gonna go. I'm gonna get there in a minute to talk about what I'm feeling in my head, okay? But to explore the historical context, now this one here, okay, says civil and family law. Oh, and that's the reason why it's civil, because I am communicating with DMH, PH, the city and the county and the dang old state and the federal something. That's the reason why it's civil. On this constitution, it's civil, and we're looking at our constitutional rights. And then yet they want to say, okay, well, live discussion, we get a panel, law enforcement, victim advocates. But did you just get that little funk right there? What I'm saying in regards to if somebody, and I think I had mentioned suicide, like if somebody is like, well, you know, something is, oh, we do that, oh, in your life, oh, yeah, everything, man. And then yet here it is, you get people who, you know, want to do themselves and do somebody else. And then that's another thing. We got to be kind of conscious of that too, because we've had some stories where people did no, you know, they went into different environments. So for the most part, to talk about the people themselves, I think that they've been doing pretty good, right? At sustaining and trying to behave themselves. Huh, man, this stuff is thick. But from Irene Ratliff perspective of how I'm trying to explain to my crime. Now that right there to be like, well, one thing or the other, to look at somebody else and then yet hear this have the same people who be like they trying to help you and they're the ones who's allowing this stuff to go on and not at the time. Well, when we look at that movie Enemy of the State, what the problem is that he was just all alone and yet all those people knew. So if we're looking at something going down on the front line, they want you to be like, oh, but look, we hear this, they doing that. It's like, honey, we don't give a flying flip what they damn doing. We trying to figure out why you trying to advance on us like that. Introduction to social services. It says understanding the approach, role, and responsibility of law enforcement and district attorney offices and working with. And I'm kind of thinking, hey, can I? Now, see, at first I was going to contact them. As a matter of fact, to tell you the truth, I did contact them, and I did contact. Here it is, legislation. I did. That was one of the first things that I did. But me contacting, and I'm talking about real local, like we in California, right here in Los Angeles. I contacted the FBI, and um, I guess if we were looking at enforcement, do you think that they're really there for the people? If you're complaining about them, do you think they're really there for you? That's a question. I don't know. But it didn't get any response, and it wasn't. Matter of fact, I think that they tried to advance and they wanted to connect the law enforcements together. Okay, so here, where were we? Okay, okay, now right here, to understand domestic abuse, uh, correction, to understand domestic violence and sexual assault in the context of own culture and explore the communication and cultural bias in translation and interpretation, decoding language and culture. Now, what did I just say to you? We don't want to accept that thing trying to be like it's our culture. We have and we is Fat BBD Street Meat Ladette Irene Ratliff. Irene Ledet, Irene. I mean that we real thick. We complaining, but the thing is that domestic abuse and that financial that is for real. And then yet those people looking like here it is they who you shouting for joy and trying to be in agreement with here it is the abuser. That don't make any sense. Now I did contact them, and I take this training. I'm be like, well, I'm certified, and I have complaints. But on cybersecurity, we got cybersecurity stuff like that, and I think that that's what I would ask them because the things that we write or we record or something, you would think that they would be there to try to protect you. But right now, we're talking about what's going on in sky, right? I know that we talk about Star Wars and stuff like that, and I remember this little cartoon. They had all these satellites and stuff falling on the ground. Well, actually, I didn't know there were satellites, but there were things falling. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. And looking at it right now, that there's a lot of satellites, right, or the capacity to do certain things, that the stars or the sky itself was falling from those things being in the sky. But if we're looking at here it is the enemy, right? Not the the enemy doing these things to us, then the question is how what device do we have up in the sky? Because I'm telling you, Street Me one of those satellites to protect us around the world. I mean, that's stuff for real. From these people doing us like that, for real. Somewhere near science and technology should be able to see rays and all that. They can see that, then here it is why they're allowing these people to do that for so long. They want to be like they're untouchable. We're the light. Anyway, let me get back to this. To context of own culture and exploited communication and cultural bias and translation interpretation. Boy, I tell you, this stuff is for real. It says introduction to how advocates work with domestic violence survivors. So that means that here it is my role as a family advocate. Reporting child abuse. Overview and introduction to the child welfare system. And I just told you we had went through. They were sitting there talking about how these people are taking the kids away, and I'm like, well, where is it coming from? Like, where, where are the children complaining? Like, where is it starting? You know what I mean? And it was like, well, to look at, domestic abuse, right? The schools, the kids can say any damn thing. That's what I'm thinking. And it needs to be in age groups because if you get a teenager and they smoke weed and they sexing and stuff like that, then you would come down on me or try to take my baby away. I mean, come on now, this is stupid. Why do you think they want to remove the kids and they grown like that? They can go hang out with their friends or something, right? But of course, we're looking at safe space, right? We want them to finish school and not to fall by the wayside. But a little child, people calling your friends, your family calling on you and everything, they be lying and stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't take that much for them. Anybody can lie and want to pick up the babies. You know what I'm saying? Pick up the kids. The kids lying. Man, that's just a whole upheaval. Just a whole process. I mean, that thing is sad, man. It is. Professional categories of reporters and ethical approaches in engaging parents, children, and families. Parents, children, and families. Man, you want me to call them? I mean, now if it was abuse, man, of course. Matter of fact, I don't even have to say something. Somebody else gonna say it. Oh man. Okay, the principles of privacy, confidentiality, and privilege. Now, what does this mean? Pri- you mean tell me these people have been doing these things privately, confidentially, because they paying them? I don't know. Okay, introduction to principles of vicarious trauma, overview of symptoms, consequences, and exploration of self-care techniques. Whew, this thing is just like, well, Now, where was I? Oh, okay. Uh, The introduction of various principles and best practices of crisis intervention with domestic violence survivors, including survivor centered and trauma informed principles and crisis intervention techniques. And I would assume that that would be, as I had mentioned, before, we're in the household, and I mean, I mean, I could say, well, let's go run away, but then yet here it is. If I say let's go and do something, and they go back to hear this, the abuser, you know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, you know, and getting someone out of that type situation, that person should be able to take care of them. But I was like, well, here it is. We would need both of us need a place to stay. So I don't know, but if they go back to that person and then yet here it is, I'm like, I'm the one who said something, and they went back to that person. They would. I mean, right now we have people talking about you because you said hello. You know what I mean? Teen sexual assault and dating violence. Introduction and experience of dating and sexual violence among youth. Impact of abuse on children. Understanding the potential short and long term impacts of domestic violence on children. Now that's sad, man. Matter of fact, when we were on the horn and they were abusing, they had the woman hitting the baby. I was just like, Lord have mercy. I mean, one of the first things when we had to take care of as children was to take classes, right, on babysitting and stuff like that. But you get some people, even me being a parent, I think that may have been a couple of times you be like, ugh. But man, that's man, some of that stuff that I was looking at, there was even cases, it was the stuff that people were sending in regards to child abuse. And I mean, there's some kids who are really suffering, okay? And I'm one of them. Overview of CP approach to cultivating community resources, collaborating with service providers, partners for referrals and additional support. I'm telling you, we were advocating against women. Man, those kids used to be out there on Skid Row, huh? Man, we were advocating against that. It's been about 20 years now today, huh? 20 years we know today that we was getting them kids and them women off the street like that. They were by themselves, that's different, but now with them having them children, a little picnic like that, man, it was looking so bad. It was just like, we'll do the city to care. I'm telling you, they got off the streets. Principles of nonviolent parenting, including empathy, emotional regulation, nonviolent communication, and technique. Nonviolent parenting, okay, community, the provider, partners for referrals and additional support. I just tell you the truth. I mean, you being in that type of situation, like I said, you're looking at domestic violence, when we were younger, man, we used to have some wild cases. I mean, love is thick. Some people, man, I mean, man, it's just like right now, even with myself experiencing what I'm talking about, the government abuse, molesting me that way. When you're with someone, you could walk away from someone. But for something to molest you and continue to do it, and like here it is, like they're untouchable or no one can do anything to them, that's the problem. That means that we got a lot of people who are at crying out or silent, right? Because they don't think anybody is going to believe them. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a witness. I went down to the woman, she was like trying to chase me. Oh, here, you did that. I said, ma'am, I did all of that. What I'm looking for is some people who want to help me advocate my complaint. Oh, we're here to see that medication. Now I'm gonna have to put a little minute on this medication. And I was just like, well, if I told, barely, I was telling people to look at that movie, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But give me a minute. Let me finish this right here, and I'm gonna go into that comment. Matter of fact, I'll just make another video for that. Introduction of types of sexual assault, understanding rape culture, exploring myths and sexual assault, and our response to them. Man, I mean, I'm telling you, I was traveling and the woman, I mean, I told him, I said, here it is. He said, well, next time you let me know. There's women and men who are just sexually active like that. I don't even know why, but assault is different, meaning that somebody may have placed a charge no different than how I was explaining that force, right? It was like, matter of fact, I wish I remember that name of that movie, but he had a lot of dolls, and he was bum rushing the women, and he wanted them to stay pretty, and he wanted to doll them up, but he was like tackling them like he was football. Like he was I need to find that movie. I don't know if I saved it or not, but I mean, he was bum rushing them, and it's like, well, that's assault. That's assault. To have somebody now, force put sexual force on you. I mean, it exists. But in regards to, let's say, rape and stuff like that, I mean, there's a lot of people who are sexually active. And then there's just some people they just damn picky. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's interesting that as I was exploring or inquiring about mental health, that they wanted to use sex, like sex is in there in mental health. So, like I said, when I was trying to inquire where I should go, DOJ, DOD, what, I end up just going to mental health because I'm like, I'm hearing that and I'm feeling that. So, that being said, the sex in mental health, it exists. Then the behaviors of that exist. We're dealing with some people who want to be like, oh, everything is okay. Look what we're doing. Her. And something wrong with them. Okay. Understand the vulnerabilities of human trafficking, methods of entrapment, and barriers to leaving. Man, we right now we just them talking about they taking the kids and stuff like that. I mean, man, whew, good God Almighty. I mean, at its finest, the government just moving people just on hearsay. And then they have those people like they trying to investigate on you like that and watch us like that. That is crazy. And I'm a witness. Consideration for sexual assault survivors on college campuses and prisons and in the military. Man, we had some of the largest stories. Even look at the military about discrimination with some of the women in there. They were complaining and said, and yet here it is. There's been ways and things that have been improved for them over the years. Understanding healthy sexuality as a tool for preventing sexual violence. And I guess that's like, hey, there's options. There's people who you may like, or people may like you. I really encourage people, hey, go out and do things. You may meet a lot of different people who will be more something or the other. Oh, that being said, one of the things too was how this noise on this platform, right, of the conversation was using colorism and um and what we would have identified as black love, talking about here it is, toss salad in the melting pot, that it was trying to create something other than the union that a man and a woman will have. Monogamous, heterosexual monogamous relationship. I was like, we didn't have to have. I'm telling you, that is, no, no. Okay. Introduction to alternative accountability justice practices to address the harm and cause of sexual assault. Yeah. Overview of the potential impacts of sexual abuse has on children and teens and consideration for appropriate therapeutic responses. Overview and introduction to the role of as nurse and exam is administered. Overview introduction of the role of law enforcement working with survivors. And I think, okay, and road to the start advocate. Overview introduction of that advocacy, the best practice of supporting survivors while working with start nurse and law enforcement. Panel discussion featuring start team nurse, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then we get our, after hearing all that mumbo jumbo, and after I'm telling you, I'm crying, we get a degree, a certificate. Okay, let me look at this really quick. Whew, whew, excuse me. So anyway, I'm gonna make another video, and this is gonna be on, one flew over the cuckoo's nest and the medication aspect of that. I mean, there was so much going on with that Dango movie that I do want to talk about the medication and look at, here it is, some of the similarities. Okay, so look out for that video. Um, um, Also, I want to look at Forrest Gump. I went to Bubba Gump's. There was a very, good reason why Forrest Gump's story is a restaurant. And I was just like, man, I remember seeing the movie years ago. I want to see it again, and get a understanding, different understanding of it as an adult. All right, hugs and kisses. Peace out, family. Thank you. We're talking about sexual violence, no, abuse, domestic violence, and sexual assault, and my complaints against the government about what I'm experiencing, and putting a request on them on that STEM to talk about science, technology, and the impact of force being used to advance these type of inappropriate, and we ain't talking about here it is like it's okay, tactics on individuals in their home. Okay? Or people, groups, people, it don't even matter because we're on a we factor. Okay, hugs and kisses, family.